Good morning, everyone. I'm Kevin Allen, and I'm joined by my usual broadcast partner, former NHL defenseman Tom Laidlaw, who played 11 seasons for the New York Rangers and Los Angeles Kings. This is the Laidlaw and Allen Report. We come to you twice a week to talk all things hockey. And today we have a special guest, and we're going to talk all about trades. So if you're going to talk trades, the guy you have to bring in is Eklund of Hockey Buzz, who's spent I would say his entire life for the last 11 years, Eck?
Try 15 now.
15. Wow, I really lost track of it. But I was going to say that he lives, sleeps, and dreams trades, but this guy plays pickleball, and his son's a puppeteer, and he helps him in. He's got an ice rink in his backyard. He binge watches many of the same television shows that I do. He's
Actually, more than Tom does. I think I'm more like a reality show guy. So hey.
There you go. Yeah. Tom doesn't watch TV. He stars in.
Yes. Perfect.
Excellent. Let's get started. So it started. We're entering the second half of the season now. That's what I always say post All-Star break. But we still have some time before the March 21st deadline. When are we going to start seeing things happening in your mind?
It is so hard to judge because usually the deadline's at the end of February, so it's so hard to judge this year because we have so many games coming up in a really short period of time. But in my opinion, I do think that I think it's the beginning of March that we're really going to see things start to move. But I think you're going to see a lot of maneuvering and what I call contingency plans being discussed, like that's really what seems to be happening now. Like if this, then that type stuff that's being discussed.
And Eck, you're right there in Philly. Claude Giroux, his name's been mentioned a lot. So two-part question here. First of all, I'm pretty sure he'll get moved. Do you agree, firstly? And secondly, what's happening with Chuck Fletcher there and his job security?
The second part's a really good question. He can't feel very good about his job security, put it that way. Dave Scott, who runs Comcast, who runs the Flyers, sort of came out the other day and gave him an endorsement, but like a for now endorsement. Like, he's our guy for now. And that's never a good thing. But he really took a lot of chances this summer based on what I think Comcast wanted him to do, which is to go for it, to do it. So it's hard at the end of the day, he'll still get fired for even doing what he was probably told to do, if he gets fired. But as far as Fletcher goes, he hasn't done a very good job here, and I don't think he's done a very good job with player development. Drafting, I think he's been fine, but and coaching, handling of the coaches, I think has been very, very very haphazard. And as far as Claude Giroux goes, he's such a flyer, and he's one of those guys. He does remind me a little bit. I wrote an article about this yesterday. He does remind me a little bit of Joe Thornton in terms of the fact that he does like being a flyer, like Thornton liked being a Shark. But at the same time, the Sharks were never in a position like when Thornton was at this point in his career that the Flyers are now, where they have him on they would always renew Thornton, but they would always stay in the playoffs. The Sharks would.
Yeah.
The Flyers being out of the playoffs was Giroux. It's very curious what will happen here. They seem to think, the people in the Flyers seem to think he's gonna go, but they honestly haven't had the official discussion yet. So,
and he's got a full no move clause, right?
He does, and Claude is very, very much likes the area, has a wife from the area, has a kid now who he adores, who brought with him to the All-Star game. So I don't know, could this be a guy who gets traded and signs back here in the summer? That would be hard because of cap situations.
Yeah.
So I don't know. They haven't really decided yet, but when you see him get the MVP of the All-Star game,
yeah,
that definitely puts it more to the forefront, right? Like, okay, that his value went up.
Yeah,
you can't deny that, right? So here you are.
Yeah, I'm not so sure that his value went up too much, as a result of a 3-on-3, MVP, but because it was already pretty high to begin with. But I wonder, do you even think they can afford to keep Claude Giroux unless he's willing to give an incredibly deep discount, and I mean even beyond half of the salary? I think.
I don't think they can. I'm not based on his numbers this year, at least, if he's going to go off that. I think they thought they could before when his numbers were sort of decreasing a little bit over years and years, and they thought maybe he'll come in at like 5 or something like that. But yeah, I'm not now. I think his value goes up in terms of the fact that people are now going to be calling for him more. You know, Kev. Like I think that you're going to have like fans out there are going to be like, okay, we really want Claude Giroux now because fans are what have you done for me lately? I think that does happen.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I mean, maybe as a result of just sort of creating, putting him in the public eye, people notice him. He's been real easy to forget this season because the team has been so poor.
That's it.
So, and from that regard, I would say I want to ask you about, and it's Tom and I have really sort of disagreed on this. I really believe that the Rangers will be one of the more aggressive teams, and he thinks A, they shouldn't, and B, they may not do too much because they really want, and his argument is valid. Yeah. They wanted their young team to grow by getting this playoff experience. Where do you fall on whether or not the Rangers will do a lot?
I would be very careful, who they brought in, because this is definitely a team where you don't want to bring in the older guy necessarily, right? Because their locker room is so strong and so solid. You don't want to bring in the guy who's going to take over, like Guerin did in Minnesota by getting rid of, Suter and Parise and Stahl. That's the Rangers are already there. You don't want to go backwards on that. You don't want to go, bring somebody like Pavelski seems like such a perfect fit for him, right? Like an absolutely perfect fit. But he also is a big character. He's I mean, the thing I've heard, like I wrote about Lafreniere and the fact that they've gotten calls on him and that, Montreal called about him. I don't think it's anything like serious or imminent or anything like that, but I think that teams are definitely thinking the Rangers are going to be active, whether or not they will be or not. They're being very close to the vest. I mean,
so that is the word act that a lot of other teams are saying the Rangers will be active.
Well, I think a lot of that is just the assumption of that they're the only team with cap space. I think there's just that's a natural thing. So teams is okay. We're going to go to the Rangers and talk to the Rangers because they're going to get so many calls, and Drury's going to get inundated with offers and different kinds of things, and whether or not. But yeah, I could see the benefit of him not doing something like that.
Yeah, you get those fringe players like those depth guys on defense, some fourth line guys, maybe a little bit more. They lost Blaze for the year. They thought that was important get for them, so something to replace him maybe. But yeah, it'd be interesting. I see Kevin's point too that if they do make a move, if it's a right move, like not upset the chemistry, then that's not bad. But let's switch gears a little bit. Going out to Phoenix Coyotes or Arizona Coyotes. They're going to move to an arena that's going to seat 5,000 people. Is this happening? Is this the real deal?
3,500, right? That's what they say. I think it's only the real deal if the NHL has something dead set in stone, right? That a newer building is coming and it's 100% coming, and getting 100% out of anything in Arizona is really hard. I think we've seen that. So for them to they're going to need that written in blood. If Arizona is going to play in a small arena in a short-term basis, they're going to need to know that they're going someplace else really soon.
And I know they've had their problems with the city of Glendale with that arena there, but why can't they just keep playing there?
It's really good. There seems to be so much baggage in the closet with those two.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think the politics there are such that they just don't want the Coyotes around. And we've seen the Athletic do a series where the Marullo group that's taken over has tried to pay less than their what they owe, by sort of cutting a deal. I owe you 100,000, but will you take 70 and call it good? That kind of thing. And I think Glendale's tired of it, and I think they feel they can do better with a more concerts, more people coming in. Maybe have a convention there, do more with it. And, the other thing is it really has not been a great venue in terms of parking. It's part of a strip mall. So, you don't get much parking revenue, which is very important to teams. And so it's not a great situation for the Coyotes as well. But, the one thing I think this has made very clear is that Gary Bettman, the commissioner, has not given up on his drive, and I'm going to call it that because no one's worked harder at it than he has, to keep the Coyotes in Arizona. Like, he does not want to move this team. And, I brought this up, I think on last show a little bit, but just to illuminate, someone said to me that the biggest problem that no one's talking about is if they don't play in Arizona next year, the Marullos don't want to own the team. They want local ownership. They want to be in Arizona. So if you're going to try to sell that team and set up that team in another city, you've got to market it. They're out of time. Like, they can't do the kinds of things that new teams do. Like if you were trying to move it to, and I don't care where, Quebec City, Kansas City, Houston, like you got to have already started the season ticket drive months ago. So, this is not going to be an easy deal. Like if you wanted to say, well, we're going to move in 2 years So,
I mean, don't you think Quebec could get done pretty quickly? Like, I mean, that's the one place, and I don't think that's where they want to go. But I think that you're not going to have trouble selling season tickets in Quebec. Like you,
I think that's moved just for the reasons, the Canadian dollar,
and the corporate sponsorship there isn't where
right.
But okay, so they've tried so long to get a new arena there, and what's going to change in that Phoenix area? I mean, that's my feeling.
Well, I mean, they've got a plan in place. They just have to get the financing in order, and for the local municipality to sign.
That's all.
Yeah, I mean that's a lot. That's a lot.
Everything. I mean, that's everything. I mean, we all had plans. Like it's great. We'll put arena there, but until you get like you say, there's politics in Arizona that you got to deal with, and there's politics everywhere. But it definitely has been shown to be the case there. Tempe is where they want to put the arena, and I mean, that's a good place to put an arena for sure. I think that would be a great place for it. But, but down and then the financing, is the public going to pay for it or not?
No, I mean, not that I'm aware of. I mean, like, when we were kids, Tom, municipalities wanted new stadiums. They wanted to help. They wanted to contribute. I remember lots and lots of stories of people doing, for every dollar that gets spent at the arena or the stadium, then you'll put $10 into the local economy. There was always those kinds of stories, and now we don't see that. All we see is what's it going to cost the average taxpayer to put up this arena.
Let's go back to the old second arena or second team in Toronto. That bandwagon going again.
Markham is the place, right? I always hear Markham as the place. Like that's where you want to put a team up in Markham, which is is that like an hour and a half from north of Toronto or something like that?
If that.
Yeah, so it's kind of like the Flyers, Devils, Rangers situation.
You got three teams here in the New York metropolitan area, and I know the population is bigger here, but not the hockey fan population.
No.
So there's more hockey fans in Toronto, but that seems
it would be really fantastic. But the Leafs, I think, like their monopoly. And
I'm just, I don't really even know this. I'm just throwing this out there. With all the immigration that Canada has, do we still have the same number of hockey fans in Toronto area? Is that?
I don't know that as a fact, Kevin, but my guess is yes. I still feel like that's
Yeah. I mean, their traffic on our website is just astonishing. I mean, it hasn't gone. It goes up all the time every year. So it feels like I know Mike's doing a good job with them too. So it's hard to say, but they're there. There's no question about it.
Well, just getting back to the trade market, another one, a team that I think Eklund is probably going to make at least one move, maybe two, is the Boston Bruins. And, they've got a chip they can play in DeBrusk, who wants out. And that's a player that I think, teams will want. He's on the younger side. He has scored 20 goals once in his career, and I think he was close another time. They've got some, changes they can make to their cap as well. So they could actually bring in, a pretty big player.
I think they were, and they should really go for a defenseman. I mean, that's really where I think they should head. Because their goaltending is, it's funny. You have three goalies, and do you have any, at the same time? Rask is sort of, he's definitely showing the signs of not playing for a long time, right? So, and Swayman I like a lot, but he's in the minors. So the different situations are going on there. I think they need to make, and that could be Arizona. We've talked about Jacob Chychrun. That makes sense in Boston. I mean, trading Jacob Chychrun though seems like suicide. It seems like suicide.
Why bother? I know you've got to rebuild the team, but you've got a defenseman like that people are always saying to find a defenseman like that is not possible.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you can build around him. I mean, it's very much like kind of like Erik Karlsson in Ottawa. They kept him, they kept him there through everything. They kept it going. And I think that he's kind of that guy for them. Ben Sherratt would Montreal trade with Boston, that would be fun to watch. That would be an interesting thing to see if that would happen. And I'm a big
Jeff Gorton used to work for the Bruins, right? So
sure.
I know he's not the GM, but he's
And I'm a big fan of Giordano. Like I think he is the kind of guy I want to bring into a team. He is a good leader, and he's not like a dominant type guy who would really mess up the room at all. And he's just got there's all kinds of bonuses for him, pluses for him. I think I could see Giordano in Boston would be a fantastic move for them.
And then who's I thinking about? Who's next? You mentioned Carlson there before. I haven't seen San Jose play this year. Is he back playing his game that he can play?
He's playing a version of it. He's definitely has. I think it's a version of his game. He's figured out, he's done the good thing that he hadn't done for a while, which is figure out how he's going to play as an older guy. He's changing his game slightly to do that. And I think,
sorry, you know what I was going to. I'm sorry to interrupt you there, but the thing I wanted to mention to you, Marc-Andre Fleury, does he go someplace?
Yeah, I think he does. We talked to Kevin about this before. I don't see how you go through all the turmoil of what is he going to go to Chicago? Is he going to play? Is he going to keep going, or is he going to retire? And then at this point, why not go further? If you're going to retire. If not, don't just end on a team that doesn't make the playoffs. That doesn't seem to make any sense for me if I'm Fleury. So I think he does go somewhere. It's tough to imagine. Edmonton is the name that always comes up with him, but Kevin, we've talked many times. There's no way that could happen with cap space and everything like that. I like the Capitals concept with Marc-Andre Fleury a lot. I do, and that's
how about Colorado.
Colorado, I like a lot too. I really do. And to me, the dark horse on them is Minnesota. Marc-Andre Fleury is Minnesota, because Bill Guerin obviously played with him, liked him, tried to get him before. And as good as Talbot is and all that stuff, I know they've had issues in the playoffs with their goalies all the time. And if you go, he's been great in the regular season, but is he going to be good in the playoffs? Marc-Andre Fleury is going to be good in the playoffs. That's going to happen. I think if they can pull that off, I think that's where I would favor him to go if they can figure out a way to do it.
Yeah, and I think getting Minnesota involved is important for the Blackhawks.
Yeah.
Because I think everybody sort of knows that Marc-Andre Fleury won't want to go to Washington and play against his Pittsburgh buddies in the first round. I mean, he's very close with Sidney Crosby, and I just don't see him, the Pittsburgh fans love him. Just don't see him. I think it would be different if he had to face him in the Stanley Cup final as opposed to in the first round.
Yeah.
So I don't think he really wants to go there. I can't imagine that he wants to go to Edmonton. I could be wrong, but I think where he might say yes to is Minnesota or Colorado. Now you got two teams, which gives you, some sort of competition. I just can't imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong, if you think I'm wrong, but when you're that close as Colorado is, not to just pull out the stops and go for it.
Yeah.
I just can't see them not trying to get a goalie because, Kemper has been good sometimes, but he hasn't been good other times. And I don't think you can take a chance with a team that scores 4 goals per game.
No. And if anybody knows this, it would be Joe Sakic, right? Who was in Colorado when they got Patrick Roy, and saw the difference that makes. They saw the difference that made, that they go from a team that's very, very good to a team that's suddenly, a perennial cup contender by getting Patrick Roy in there. So Sakic's lived that. He's got to be feeling that. I agree with you. It's just whether or not they can pull it off. And the great thing about, for Chicago's sake, Colorado and Minnesota, like you said, they're the same division. I mean, they could play each other in the first round. They could play each other in the second round. You get a bidding war going between those two teams. That's serious. And Colorado's been knocked out by Marc-Andre Fleury recently too. So that also plays into it.
Yeah. Back here in the East, the New York Islanders, very disappointing season. Obviously, a lot of things have gone wrong, got into their building late, all that stuff. Do they do something as Lou Lamoriello? He always seems to do something. He stays quiet, and then all of a sudden something happens. What do you think?
Yeah, he does very close to his vest, obviously, but I've been considering myself a little bit of a Lou whisperer because I have a couple people that know him pretty well, and we kind of talk about it. We're like, what do you think Lou would do? We get together, people who work for him and stuff like that. We actually have a chat. We actually have a chat in my phone. And everybody says he hasn't given up yet. Like it's kind of getting there, it's beyond getting there. And they'd have to get to an incredible run. And yes, they are a good team and maybe could go on that run, but they haven't done it yet. And they also would need, I think, Washington to fall apart. And so at the end of the day, can he be a seller? He's not one who has been a seller very He's been a reluctant seller in the past, I'd say, right? And wherever he's been, he's not really a seller type of guy.
He's got those guys, those like that Matt Martin could help a team, that the team player, tough guy, fourth liner.
Yeah. No, they have.
I think Clutterbuck could move.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, those guys I could see. Yes, although he does love that line, he's all about that line. So I'm really surprised by them. Honestly, I am. I think that they got old really fast. They got slow really fast.
Yeah. Bad coaching there with Barry Trotz. That's what it is.
That could well be it for sure.
Kevin Allen's cousins with Barry Trotz. In case you don't know.
That's the ongoing theory here. Before you go, Echo, we're gonna have to go, but give us a couple of players you think maybe are flying a little bit under the radar. That we talked too much about probably the top players, but there are players just below that level that could help teams as well. Give us one or two of those.
Yeah, I'll give you one that I find interesting, and that is that's Shane Gostisbehere, who is really killing it. Like, he's having a great year. He's got 20 plus assists. He's confident again. Like, this was a rookie of the year runner up, but then lost his confidence from the coaching in Philly. They made him play out of position and made him play a way that he's not suited to play, where in Arizona he's allowed to do whatever he wants. And he showed that when he's allowed to do whatever he wants, he's a pretty effective offensive player from the defensive end and can run a power play. Gostisbehere, I think, is a guy I would look at as a cool kind of under the radar type of player. And the other one, and this is just is Connor Garland, who I heard a lot about this weekend, and I'm really shocked about that because I'm a big Connor Garland fan. Like, I think he's a hell of a player, and I thought it was a great move by Vancouver to get him. But if Rutherford doesn't like him for some reason, or thinks that he's too small or whatever, that's I think Connor Garland could be moved, and that's another guy I heard Boston connected to, but I don't know. But I think those are two guys that we're going to be talking a lot about.
Yeah, I think Connor Garland's problem in terms of being tradable is his contract. No one wants to take term, and he's got a little bit of term.
Yeah, he does.
Hey, before you go, real important question. Did you see my Sunday cooking show this past Sunday?
I have not, but I would like to see it. What did you cook?
I cooked green tea noodles with shiitake mushroom sauce. Oh,
fantastic. I
found an Asian restaurant that might replace Costco called H Mart. Have you ever heard of H Mart?
Yes.
Oh, good stuff.
I've never been there, though. There's one near us now. I should check that out. Have you ever sous vide in anything?
What's that?
Have you ever sous vide? You know what sous vide is?
No,
oh man, look at it. You'd love this. I'm into this. The sous vide is like you get this water, you get a bucket of water.
Oh yeah.
Heat up the water and you put meat in there in a vacuum wrap. So you've seen this. Right. It's like the best steak you'd ever have.
Oh really? Then what do you do? Do you put it on the grill a little bit after to get that?
Right, that's one thing you do need to kind of give it that grilled feel because you're not cooking. But what I do, I say screw the grill. I take out my my blowtorch.
Oh,
I have a little handheld blowtorch.
Nice.
Judy loves this when I do this in the kitchen. But I take out I put the steaks on there. I take out a blowtorch. It comes up, and then I just darken all the meat with my blowtorch right there on the spot. Fantastic.
It's funny you should bring that up because I just saw on Facebook the last night someone that I know, they're moving into a new house and they're renovating it, and they've sort of moved in, but they're not really in there yet because there are people who are helping them renovate the house that are living there with them. And he says one of our person who's helping us the renovation is making breakfast, and he had a blowtorch out and a piece of bread, and he was making toast. It was a hilarious photo.
It's a quick way to cook, man. It cooks really fast. It's the quickest way to toast bread. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
No question about
it. Eklund, it's a pleasure to have you. I'm sure we will have you right before the trade deadline as well. I know you keep track of everything that's happening in the trade world, and it's always nice to have you on. Thanks for
coming. It's great to see you. As always. Thanks, guys.
That is Eklund of Hockey Buzz, whose entire website is dedicated to all the crazy rumors that happen. And as we all know, there's a lot more rumors than what actually happens, but he keeps track of them all. And if nothing else, it's an entertaining place to go to find out what's going on.
Follow him too. You need to pay attention to his he's got a code there, kind of, right? Like it's an F, it's like a 1 or something. Does he number his rumors?
Yeah, whether or not, whether it's just there's any if he really believes strongly in it, it's an F5. And
So he takes
no
some heat.
E5, Eklund 5.
That's right.
Yeah, I said it.
He takes some heat because people say, that's not going to happen. He's throwing it out there. Well, he admits, yes, there's some. It's a wild rumor. There's other ones that he feels are really like going to happen soon. So,
yeah. Well, you take a lot of heat in his business, but I think it rolls right off of him. He's got a real, as I mentioned before, a real interesting life, and I mean. Like I just laughed at, he didn't know what we were talking about with your cooking show, but he's the guy that, does things like he pointed out, he boils his meat and, that's probably a trendy thing that he read about. He's always got something going on. He has 43 pinball games and,
if people don't know his story, I won't get into the whole thing, but going back to the lockout of 04-05, he started writing basically a blog, right? And he called himself Eklund. Pelle Eklund was a goalie that passed away, played with the Flyers. That was his favorite player. So nobody knew who he was. They just was a pseudonym. Is that his pseudonym?
But it was actually Pelle Eklund was a forward, not a goalie.
Yeah. Who was it that passed away? What was the player?
But Pelle Lindbergh is his favorite goalie. But
that's right.
But Pelle Eklund was a player that played for the Flyers when he was a kid.
That's right. Yeah. So he had this blog that nobody knew who he was, and he kept his name secret. Nobody knew who he was. All in a build. And I saw it. And I contacted him to get subscribed to it because he was getting all these rumors during the lockout. He had a band. And he got to know some of the players, and the players were telling him all the rumors that was going on in the lockout, and that's how he got his popularity. That's pretty accurate, right?
Yeah, and he was actually getting at that point in time. I mean, I'll fill in the cracks a little bit. Nobody wanted to read any of that information except for a small group. The mainstream media, we stopped covering it. In that lockout, I ended up covering the NBA and the Major League Baseball. We spent a little time covering the lockout, but nobody wanted to read it. You'd write the story and you'd look at the number of people that read it. No one would read it, but there was a lot of people who did care. And all those people started flocking to Eklund. So he started getting good information from both sides. And when you're saying he was in a band, he was in a big time band. He was a full-time musician.
Yeah. That's right.
He was the list of people that he opened up for is pretty impressive. I mean, he was never more than the warm-up back to his group. But I went and saw him play. They had this music venue in Philadelphia and Eklund and I are friends. Was shutting down after, 25 years or whatever it was. And it so happens that Eklund's band had opened up that venue, that music venue, 25 years before. So they invited his group back to play. And, by then they had broken up. Their lead singer went off and had a family and so forth. And so they hadn't been together for 2 or 3 years. And I went out to Philadelphia and was sitting in this club that, I don't know that it seated all that many, 500 or so, maybe more. And I'm with a friend of mine, and I'm listening, and I'm thinking, my God, he's actually very good.
Oh, really?
And I know him at a different level. I don't know him as a musician level, but he's a keyboard player and a vocalist, and does his thing. And
it's funny how the rest of the media really kind of laughed at him, right?
They did for sure. Yeah, he took a lot of abuse, and he's a very fun and entertaining guy, very likable. Doesn't have a mean bone in his body, which is amazing because he takes an incredible amount of abuse over it. But he's a lot of fun. But I saw, excuse me, that Susan had a good question about JT Miller. And the last I've heard in talking to a couple of GMs, there's been some talk that maybe Miller could end up in Boston as well. They would like to get both a forward and a center to play kind of the replacement for David Krejci. You know what I mean? In the playoffs. I mean, if we all think about the Bruins and their playoff runs, I mean, they got that great top line. But Krejci has always been very good in the playoffs. In fact, his numbers in the playoffs were always he was right up there with Bergeron in terms of offensive production. So there's been talk about him possibly going there. I think JT Miller is a terrific, underrated player.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Big, can skate, shoot. He's tough.
And he can do whatever you need him to do. He can be on the power play. He can kill penalties. He's a very valuable player, and I don't know if I don't know whether the part of the problem with Connor Garland, why they are looking at trading. They have to trade somebody. They can't afford all those players. They got way too many.
I know.
So
they messed that up. Yeah, and that was a team too that was like up and coming, good young players, and they're still there, but it just seems like they've kind of fallen back a little bit. But yeah,
well, they the salary cap can bite you. If you don't pay attention to what you're doing, and you got to think. It's like playing chess. You got to think ahead. Like who I'm going to sign, and I mean, it seems fairly obvious that that's the case, but teams do get caught that they didn't sort of figure out that, well, in the interim we're going to acquire someone else. Now all of a sudden we don't have enough money. Like you look at Philadelphia, which I did recently, and I was stunned at how little money. Like they're going to have to sign like 10 guys this summer. And that's counting taking Giroux and Ristolainen off the books, and they only have like $12 or $13 million.
I didn't realize they were that bad. Well,
yeah, so they're like, I don't know that they could afford to re-sign Giroux.
Yeah.
Not without they're going to have. I mean, you could trade Konechny, which I think has been rumored.
Yep.
And move that out. Now you're up to $18 million. Okay, you're doing better. Then you take one. If you could get Giroux to sign for $5 million, and then everyone else averages, 9 players averaging $1.3 million or something.
Yeah.
Which is kind of what a salary cap roster looks like if you think about it. It's 4 or 5 players making a lot of money, and then a couple players making.
You've done that before, right? I mean, and Pittsburgh's done a great job of that, spreading that money out. So yeah, they're a good example. Hey, have we done a show since the Rocky Wirtz incident? His comments? I don't think we did we?
I've talked about it so much on air that I can't really recall, but I'm willing to talk about it again. So
just real quickly, I just wanted to touch on it because it's something obviously that we've touched on before, the whole abuse issue. So Rocky Wirtz, one of the owners of the Chicago Blackhawks, had a kind of like a town hall meeting and was asked about Kyle Beach, the young boy who was abused by their coach there, and just snapped. It was really nasty, saying we're not talking about Kyle Beach, right? And then the next day, apparently, he came out and apologized for his comments. But that was to me, that's his thought. That's how he's thinking. That's how he looked at the whole situation, which was really disappointing.
And to me, the telling comment is, that question, one of the elements of being a journalist is the watchdog function. It's up to the journalist to keep everybody honest, to keep them accountable. And, the Blackhawks have said, look, we've implemented rules. We're never going to allow this to happen again, never again. And it's up to the journalist to say, yeah, okay, well, what are you doing? But he did that in such a way, like it was non-confrontational. Like Mark Lazarus is a pro, and he asked that like it was an underhand softball toss, that question.
Right.
I mean, he got the big windup, and he floated it up there. Sure. And he just basically asked them, and then he, was probably going to see where it went. And, if you're Rocky Wirtz at that time, you say, yeah, we still feel as strongly as we did on that day. We have not changed one bit. We have paid off that person to settle that lawsuit. We have implemented within our organization all the safeguards that have in place, so that is never going to happen again. And, we're moving on now, but we have that in place, and we are confident that we're going to protect all of our players. That's all you can say.
Yeah.
Now, what are you going to say to that? I mean, you can ask for more details, and then Rocky Wirtz says, if you want to get more into it, you can, call whoever's in charge of it, and they can. But in this forum, I'm here to talk about a wide range of issues.
And in the meantime, they've had another. I think it was a trainer in their minor league team that now got sexual assault case against them as well. Now they've investigated that. This is it's just a short story coming out today. They investigated it and fired him. So obviously, I think.
Well, the one thing, and I always bring this up. It's not that you have them that causes problems. I mean, you can't. Those people do a pretty good job of hiding. Yeah. And you don't know you're hiring a predator when you do it. So it's not that you hired them to get you in trouble. It's how you react to it. Yeah. And you got to be on it quickly. You got to condemn it. You got to get rid of the person, and do what you can. So
Yeah, totally. I agree.
Yeah.
No, okay. So did you see my cooking show on Sunday?
no, I didn't. And normally I do on Sundays,
Yeah.
because on Facebook, the way the algorithms work is, people that you check all the time always come up first. So
Is
you
that
always
work?
come up. Yeah.
Okay.
So you always come up real quickly, but I didn't see your Sunday show.
I was hoping your wife would see it too, because it was all vegan then, because I used chickpea flour to thicken the broth. I made she made my own homemade vegetable broth as well. So
Yeah. No, that's good. My wife went to a baby shower yesterday, and it was everybody brought their own food, and which is very important for my wife because usually people don't bring vegan food. So she made a vegan gnocchi, and it had lots of vegetables and chickpeas, and that's what reminded me of it. It had that. So I tried it. She left some at home, and I tried it. It was pretty good.
Right. And why do they call it a shower, a baby shower? Are they showered with gifts? Is that?
I guess I have no idea, but that is a great question.
It is. We'll research that. We'll research that.
Yeah. No, I don't know, but I'm excited because we're leaving. My wife and I were going to go down and see my daughter who lives in South Carolina, Kelsey, on Wednesday. So we'll be down there a few days and seeing my son-in-law is he's like the director in residence for a youth theater in Spartanburg. He's been there for like 8 or 9 years, and it's a real, it's like a city deal where this beautiful theater. But I've not, because of COVID, actually seen any of his productions. And so
Kelsey's health is good.
Kelsey's health has been good. Her blood numbers have been very good. We're just waiting kind of for platelets to come back around. So, but appreciate you asking. And anyway, I want to get back just to hockey a little bit. And Rocky Wirtz reminded me of it. I just want to get your take maybe on what you thought Gary Bettman's performance was with regard to Rocky Wirtz and with Arizona. Were you surprised that he just came out and said, yeah, we're okay with 5,000 arena as long as there's a deal in place?
Yeah, I was very surprised by that. But then I guess I think to myself, well, I guess he's got to say that, because if it's going to happen, he's got to, if he says he doesn't want it to happen, then it happens.
Right.
And so I can't believe that he really is happy about it. I mean, that's 5,000 people. The running joke is going to be, well, they'll still won't be able to fill the place up with the team they've got there. Right? That's going to be the joke. But there's got to be another alternative. And again, I admire him that he wants to keep that team there. And I think that could be a good market too, if they had a good team. But they tried so hard to get a building all these years. I guess, like you said, this Tempe thing could come true, but we'll see.
Well, I mean, I think he did answer one question with regard to everybody said, well, why don't they just go downtown? Well, the Sun does. They don't want them. They don't want the hockey team down there.
Wow.
So I think they'd be happy if they went away.
Wow.
So
yeah, that's true. I guess the Sun's going to help them, right? Because that's the kind of competition for the fans' dollars, right? So
yeah. So it's a dog eat dog world.
That's true. Yeah.
So I mean that answers that. But we're going to, as I mentioned before, I had someone tell me that it's too late to move this team now. It would be very difficult for, especially if it's going to change ownership.
Right.
But
I guess the thing is, let's say they move to Houston. Let's say tomorrow they call up and they make an announcement they're going to move the team to Houston, but it's not ideal. They don't have the lead time to sell season tickets and all that. But the situation in Phoenix is so bad, in Scottsdale or Glendale, wherever they are, to go into a 5,000 seat building. But do
you want to start in a place where everything is going to be wrong, or would you rather wait a year and be able to do it right? And because they're going to just hit the ground running. They're not going to have any weekend games. They're going to play Tuesdays and Thursdays, and it's and apparently this building in Houston is a big. At least someone told me. I haven't really investigated this, but that they have a lot of concerts and stuff. So the dates aren't even night. So I don't know. But it's not. It's a terrible situation, and to be honest with you, it's a bit ridiculous.
Yeah.
That
It's
we've
even
got.
it's kind of like a field house, isn't it? This place they're going on the campus of the university. Like it's
Well, no,
not like
yeah, I mean it's the ice arena that Arizona State's going to play. So
oh, okay. Oh.
yeah, so yeah, and that's the other thing too. They're not going to get any. They're only every other weekend. I mean, college hockey happens on Friday and Saturday night, so every 2 weeks they're not going to have any home dates because Arizona State's going to get first priority. So.
Geez, there's so many fantastic buildings and cities in the league now. You look at Vegas and Nashville and all these places. To have that as part of the National Hockey League, that's nasty.
Yeah, especially when if you put it in some of these places, it's going to be great.
Yeah.
Anyway, we've really run out of time today. We appreciate everyone tuning in. We'll be back on Wednesday, and by then, of course, we'll have the second half of the NHL season rocking and rolling. If you want to read me, I'm at DetroitHockeyNow.com and also HockeyBuzz.com.
And if you want to listen to the radio version of this show, you can go to radio.co at 365 Sports. Again, that's radio.co at 365 Sports. We'll see everybody on Wednesday.